Melanie. How you doing?
Good. Hi, Phil. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. So you help diagnose people with learning disabilities, correct?
Right. Yep. I did that in a school system in elementary school.
And is it just dyslexia, that kind of thing, or is it other disabilities as well?
I'm certified to diagnose any type of learning disability, except autism. That usually goes to LSSPs. But yeah,
Hmm.
any other learning disabilities I can assess and determine and develop an IEP plan for them in school. That's what I did in
Okay,
school. hmm
nice. What led you down that path?
Um, Early on, we're going back into the early 2000s. I was working in a school. I was a special education teacher, and I
Hmm.
went to some trainings about dyslexia and utilized my two boys. They said, "Well, let's practice doing some assessments," and I used my boys, and one was in
Hmm.
third grade and the other was in first grade, and I brought their results in, and they said, "Your boys are both dyslexic." And I
Oh wow.
immediately, yeah, I thought, wow, if I didn't know, and I'm a teacher, and I just thought, wow, they're just, taking their time, or they're all boys. They just aren't learning this because they're not interested in it. There must be a lot more people that don't know as well. So, and a
Hmm.
lot of our special ed kiddos are probably dyslexic and they're not getting the proper intervention. So I became a certified academic language therapist in 2004 and then
Hmm.
did assessment and intervention with dyslexic and dysgraphic kiddos. And then as time went on, I got my certification to do just the evaluation. And I did
Oh,
that in
nice.
school systems.
I'm not familiar with dysgraphia. What am I saying that right?
Yep.
Dys,
hmm
what? Teach me, Yoda.
Okay. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is
So,
a? Yeah.
yeah. So dyslexia very simply is difficulty reading. Okay. It just
Hmm.
means that you're not processing the language and you need to be taught in a different way because our language is difficult. Dysgraphia
Hmm.
is difficulty writing. So, and a lot of
Oh.
times that's processing the language. It's not a motor skill difficulty where people confuse that. It's not motor skill. It's from the brain to the hand so that when you're forming a letter, it might not come out the
Mhm.
way you wanted it to. They confuse upper and lower case, and they also have grammatical issues as well. People with dysgraphia, not they
Mhm.
as a whole. Mhm.
Yeah. No, okay, yeah, I had never heard of that before, so maybe that explains my shitty handwriting.
It goes hand
Mm,
in hand quite a bit.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
if you confuse
Yeah,
up lowercase and that kind of thing, a lot of times that's
mhm.
one of the, you know,
Yeah,
characteristics.
like, for me, like I've said on the show before, I am dyslexic. This was back in the mid-80s when I was diagnosed, right? It was basically they just I don't maybe I was a rambunctious child, I don't remember, but they
Yeah.
just wanted to put me in a class to get me away from the other kids or something, I don't know. But back in the 80s, it is didn't care, so but for me, as I got older, I never really had I kind of forced myself to read when I got into like in my teens,
Mhm.
because I just enjoyed reading, so it was mostly fiction stuff. Obviously, like I don't know who reads
Mhm.
nonfiction for fun unless you're a scholar or something. Like when you're diagnosing somebody, what are some of the things that you go through to see if they have dyslexia?
Yeah, I can explain a lot of that, but
Hmm.
I'll start with basically dyslexia is difficulty reading. It
Hmm.
means you're intelligent. There's no reason you've had education, but you're not learning to read the way that you're being taught. Okay.
Right.
People that are dyslexic are right brain thinkers. In probably the 1990s, the late 1990s, they started doing MRIs.
Mm,
And the man that was doing it, the doctor that was doing it, would test people, and he could say, "Wow, when you're reading, this fires. When you're eating, this fires, and we can see what's on your right brain." Right? They were doing MRIs, and then he
mm,
started getting people that were reading, and it was firing on the right side instead of the left side, and he's going, "What is going on?" And these people were dyslexic. So it
mm,
wasn't until the 1990s that they truly said, "Yes, this really is a thing, and we need to pay attention." They've
mm,
known about dyslexia for 100 years plus and the
mhm,
intervention, but they didn't really accept it and acknowledge it until those MRIs came up and they could really physically see this is something. Okay.
mhm, yeah,
So since the left side of your brain is the literary side,
mhm,
that's where that language sticks. So when you see C in front of an A, it says K. When you say see C in front of an and E, it says, right?
Mhm.
And instead of memorizing words, you learn in the left side of your brain, you learn those patterns. But people who are dyslexic, it doesn't stick. They need to be taught those letter patterns. So you had one of two things would happen with you. You either memorized a lot of words and you
Mhm.
just read and can really get the gist because you're intelligent, or you get taught those letter patterns and then you're able to decode words. That's what dyslexia is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to you. You were in that part where they were like, we're not really sure. He's probably really just lazy. Just keep
Mhm.
reading. Is that kind of what
Right.
they told you?
If I remember correctly, yeah. So I never felt like I was any different until I got into ESE classes my entire school, like from kindergarten till 12th grade.
Mm-hmm.
They never reevaluated me. I never thought to have it done. My mom never thought to have it done. I'm not doubting that I had it. I'm just doubting the way that they went about it. You know what I mean? I think the separation as I got older is when it really started to hit a little bit, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, oh, okay, well you're different, so you got to go over here. But then again, I was in classes with kids that were just, ADHD and all this other stuff. I think that really affects a child, because it
Absolutely.
makes them feel inferior, it makes them feel different.
Yep.
And obviously, I mean, and then the teachers, man, God bless them. Do you coach teachers on this, or how does that work?
So, I mean, again, until they could say concrete evidence, this is what it is, and these are intelligent kids, they're not lazy. And like you
Mhm.
said, that's exactly what happened. My husband did this was the same way. He was
Mhm.
put into a class and he's thinking, why am I in here? And he
Right.
still suffers from self-esteem issues because of it.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the way that they teach. So we we teachers were teaching was called whole language. Just keep putting the books in front of you, putting the books in front of you, and
Mhm.
eventually, like 80% of the population, you're going to assimilate and accommodate and learn those letter patterns, which are very difficult in the English language, by the way.
Yeah.
So, but or you do what you probably did, and dyslexia never goes away. So,
Mhm.
what you probably did is memorize words. There's 300,000 words in the English language.
Wow.
So, it comes a point where you can't memorize them all, and that's where you're going to see still that separation.
Mhm.
And then another telltale sign is if you're still struggling with spelling,
Mm.
because that is more difficult, your orthographic processing, because there's nothing to memorize. You have to know that word, right? You have to know how to
Right.
spell, you have to know those patterns. So the spelling stays difficult. So interventionists, we did start plugging in phonics into everybody's day. Teachers. I worked with general ed teachers and teaching them how to teach phonics so that we would pick up that 20% of the population that's
Mhm.
dyslexic. But we also still had pull out programs to teach really teach that phonics to those kiddos.
Mhm.
And that's gotten better and better. I
Mhm.
test kids throughout the entire country, sometimes in Canada and other countries as well, because I can do it virtually. And I can tell you some states are better than others.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
think education as a whole in America is abysmal. The moment you inject government into anything, it's just going to go to shit.
true. That's true.
Unfortunately, I think there's so many kids that left behind in the dust, and they feel lost. I mean, like I had a lady on my show a while back, and she has a disability, but she's a teacher's aide. I was telling her that there was a guidance counselor that told I wanted to be a massage therapist, and she was like, "Oh, you're not smart enough to do that." And I'm like, "That's not conducive to." I mean, listen, I'm not one that needs kid gloves. I can understand that there's certain, like, yeah, I'm never going to be a nuclear physicist. Okay, I can understand that part. There was a few people back
That's
then in that in that time frame back in the 80s and 90s that they just weren't nice people, and they were still in that vocation of teaching children or being responsible for children, and they shouldn't have been, you know what I mean?
both my sons are dyslexic, actually. The younger son, when he was graduating from high school, I wasn't an assessor at that time.
Right.
I was just a dyslexia therapist. I could assess, but not the way they needed me to. So he did a
Mhm.
full evaluation with somebody through through the state to try to see what kind of accommodations he could get in colleges. This is why I do
Mhm.
this now. They told him the same thing. You're not really cut out for this. I don't think college is the right way for you to go. how about you do this? And they
Mhm.
told him that he should be a horseshoer, which he is now. But he wanted to go to college. Okay, so he was a horseshoer because they told him no. He became a
Mhm.
horseshoer for 12 years. He's excellent at it, by the way, and we have horses, so it came in handy.
Mhm.
But I always told him, keep going, keep going. Eventually, he went back to college. He became a teacher, graduated with 3.7
Nice.
average. He taught for a year, but teaching, he just said, this is so hard. They put so much on you. It's really not where I want to end. So now he went to pilot school. He's a commercial pilot and he flies medevac.
Oh,
This is
wow.
the kid they said, you're not smart enough to go to
Mhm.
college. Shame on them. Absolutely.
100%. I graduated scrub tech school, with a 3.86. I'm looking at words that are in Latin because that's the base root of all medicine.
It was more difficult for you than maybe someone else, and you
Mhm.
still learned it and you aced it. That just
Mhm.
shows how intelligent you are.
Mhm.
And that's the difference that they didn't really they were like, "You don't know how to read, you must not have intelligence."
Right.
But truly, you do have great intelligence. That's just learning, and it's not an innate thing, it's something that needs to be taught. And our
Mhm.
language is so difficult, like,
Yeah.
OUGH, like, what does that say? Depends on the word.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Mhm.
IGH, what's that all about, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's ridiculous. And so some brains just our right brain people who are like my son's a great pilot.
Mhm.
There was a lot of book stuff that he had to get through and learn, of course. He's
Yeah.
flying jets now, but he's a great pilot because he's right brained and he has like spatial ability, and your skills too, what you do in the medical field. I mean, that takes a right brain person, and yet we're taking our right brain people and cutting them off at the knees saying you can't read well enough, so you
Mhm.
can't do this. We're
Yeah.
getting better, but it's
Mhm.
not really where it should be yet.
No, it'll get there eventually. I think that, there's a
Hope
lot
so.
of things. Yeah, me too. There's a lot of things that need to change the schooling system. It needs a serious overhaul, and I think it needs to get away from one government funding, which is a whole another thing. But anyways, but also the standardized tests, the SAT, and all that. Although I will say there was one benefit of being an ESE kid. I didn't have to take those tests. The
That's yeah.
yeah, that's about it. And it's like I'm a shitty test taker, like because I have test anxiety. So it's like I bring what is it? I bring one pencil to write with and seven to chew on. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
nervous.
You have a lot to deal with. You have,
Mhm.
it's harder for you because you've memorized words instead of, figuring them out. It is
Mhm.
harder. So you have a lot of anxiety about that. Plus the
Mhm.
self-esteem. That's just very common is to have
Mhm.
that test anxiety with when you haven't had the proper intervention starting in first or second grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
And
proper instruction, period.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
also, but between the time I was born and I started kindergarten, I had moved like 5 times. So
Yeah.
and it was never, and that was because of my father. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna leave it in. For the long as an adult, for the longest time, I thought my father was a serial killer, and here's why: because we would move every 2 years, right? Is he maybe a serial killer? Because it was usually the dormant period for someone like that, and then he would
Yeah.
act out that,
Yeah.
oh, time to move. But then again, obviously
Wow.
he's not. But
Yeah.
I thought that was a funny little anecdote to why we moved around so much.
That
But it
is
was just,
good. That's
yeah,
good.
I think it's just wanderlust.
Also
But
also a testament of your creative brain who's, like, thinking way out of the box, which we often see with dyslexia. That's
yeah,
why our intelligence are important, and we don't address that in schools. It's very, like, one-sided, and the
hmm
schools, because of the funding and the way that all goes on, is very top-heavy. There's a lot
hmm
more administrators. The administrators are getting paid great, and the people who are teaching the kids and actually working with the kids are underpaid, so you're
hmm
not getting a quality instructor. And
hmm
that's a shame because it's not easy to teach children how to read all the time. Some
no.
it is. So, yay, those are great. I did great. But what about the rest of them that you're just shoving in a corner? So, yeah, you need to know what you're doing.
If parents start working with their children at a young age to learn how to read, if they start doing things earlier at home with them, do you think that gives the kids an advantage, or do you think it's a moot point?
I think it's a good thing, yes. But I was a
hmm
teacher and I was
hmm
reading with my kids and they were having a hard time learning to read.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and I,
Mm.
I didn't know it's the way you teach,
Yeah.
teaching those letter patterns exactly, teaching how to decode words, teaching
Mhm.
what all the sounds mean, and repetition. With going back to those MRIs, after I think it was like 80 hours of this particular instruction, which is Orton Gillingham based,
Mhm.
that after 80 hours of this particular instruction, the uh, the MRIs showed firing, or showed I can't think of the word, but action in the left
Mhm.
side of the brain. It does actually switch it. It rewires the brain and switches the patterning.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
it's the
Yeah.
instruction, period.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
proper instruction.
I think I had more good teachers than I had bad when I was in school, because I think back then there was a lot more passion for teaching. Back 70s, 80s, people, they actually went for the vocation and not necessarily to pad their pocketbook. But now with teaching though, it's such an underfunded and underpaid thing that I don't know how we're going to keep having them in about 20 years. Everybody's going to be taught by AI anyhow, so it doesn't
I
really
hope
much
not.
matter. I don't think. I God, I hope not too. But I mean, we have 7 Terminator movies to tell us why this is a bad idea. But
Yeah,
anyways,
we do.
but you also have a bit of a different story as well. You had a near death experience, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm a data person, right? So
Uh,
I assess kids. I look at the data. I determine their strengths, their weaknesses, how best they learn, help create structured plans. And I rode motorcycles. My whole family rode motorcycles for years. I've been riding for 40 years. I've ridden across the country several times.
mhm,
I ride a wide glide. I've ridden it to Canada. I've ridden it to Sturgis. I've ridden it to California, all over the place. Well, one day my husband and I are out riding our motorcycles, and on the way home, there was a truck parked on the shoulder on the side of the road. We didn't think that much about it, just kept riding past it. This truck pulled right out in front of us, just didn't even look. My
mhm,
husband skirted around it, but I hit at 60 miles per hour. I hit the
mhm,
passenger side door. Um, my head went through the passenger's window. I wear a full face helmet,
mhm.
and I was broken from my neck to my pelvis completely, arms, hands, wrists, the whole thing. I
Wow.
lost 40% of my blood on the side of the road, and they really didn't think I was going to make it. I was life flighted um, to the hospital. And here's what happened with me while all that was going on. Um, Immediately, I saw the truck in slow motion, and then I saw all red, like a red energy. And this is Data Girl, like, what is
Mhm,
happening? But I
mhm,
knew from what I felt that it was my mother. And she said to me, "You're going to come with me for a little while, and you're not going to stay. Do you understand?" Said it, conveyed it, right? It's in my mind. And as soon as I accepted that, I was able to see the blue energy, which is my son. My older son's in spirit too. He's in heaven.
mm. Okay.
And so, I mean, the whole time it was just so real. Like, even now telling it seems just kind of crazy, but it happened. It's a memory. It's not like some kind of crazy thing that was going on. This was all on the side of the road. I could see myself from above, and I could look down. I saw myself pushing myself over because I was down on my stomach with my broken hands and wrists. And I pushed myself over. And later I asked my husband, did that happen? And it did. I pushed myself over. I could see my mouth open, kind of screaming, but I didn't feel the pain.
Mm.
So, and then the energy that was my son, it's taken me a long time to even share this story because it doesn't have words, it's more emotion and feeling. But
Right.
he showed me that the blue energy that was him went into a V shape where it was less at the bottom and more at the top to protect me. And I
Mm.
heard or felt or was conveyed to me, I was between you and the pain. You, and I knew that was you in the truck. So he also
Wow.
protected me. It was just a crazy experience. And
Yeah.
and I couldn't deny it. And it's completely changed my life in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
any
can
questions?
understand. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I mean, so what did I mean? Obviously, you said what it felt like, but I mean, did you? I don't even know where to start because that's just an amazing story, right? Like, me, a loudmouth, a loss for words. Anyways, um, but you weren't physically conscious during this. This was all like outside hovering over your own body and watching. Is that what was going on?
But I was still connected because I
Okay.
remember, and I'll get memories sometimes, and I remember my other son was out riding the same night, and he pulled up on the accident. My husband called him in his Bluetooth, so he skirted up the shoulder, and
Mhm.
found me. He was laying underneath the truck facing me because he
Yeah.
thought it was the last time he was going to see me. And I remember him telling me that he loved me, but I also remember being above my body. I wasn't feeling pain. And I
Mhm.
know there's some things that physically happen that you're in shock that maybe you don't feel pain from that either. But I feel like I was outside of my body as well. And I was
Right.
protected by angels. That's how it
Yeah.
felt by
That's
my
yeah,
mom and my son.
yeah. If you can explain it,
Yeah.
what does that feeling feel like to be protected by them? How
Yeah, yeah. So, and I also stayed in this state of transcendent for the 10 days I was in ICU while they operated on me. I had like, I don't know, 10, 12 operations to fix
Mhm.
me and put me back together. So I remember parts of that too, but it was a feeling of just floating in love that was
Mhm.
all connected, like pure love. It's
Mhm.
nothing you've ever felt because it just doesn't exist on earth,
Right.
or at least that's what I thought.
Mhm.
So it's just floating in pure connected love. You're all connected to one another, although like I know when it was my son and when it was my mother. My father was there. I saw angels.
Mhm.
But it's
Wow.
just pure, unconditional, perfect love. That's what it
Wow.
felt like.
I'm not trying to diminish what you're saying, but it's almost like
Okay.
you don't wanna come back.
I didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, but my mom told me right away that I'm gonna. And another
Mhm.
thing, I'm sharing this experience, and it's like if you whoever wants to hear it and believe it, and if not, that's okay too. It's not something to prove, but it happened.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I told the angels that I didn't want to come back or conveyed it. Like it's hard to explain
Mhm.
how, information is conveyed. It's almost, you're part of each other, so you just know. And when I was letting them know that, I was in ICU at this time and I was intubated. I
Mhm.
have pictures of myself, like I'm out of it for like 8 days. And so I could see at the end of my bed my husband, my daughter, my son, and my aunt, and they were
Mhm.
praying. And because of the state that I was in, I saw people in colors. So
Mm.
I also saw the energy from their prayers going up to heaven
Mm.
and bringing down the angels. It just was an energy. And so they showed me, and what they were showing me was when I didn't want to come back, that love that you feel here, it's in each of us. We are
Mm.
all from that energy, and that
Yeah.
energy, when we open our heart and we pray or we connect to heaven, it's inside of all of us.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's one of the things.
yeah, that's an amazing story. So, I mean, obviously, in a second, I want to ask you what the recovery was like because I am a medical person. I've helped put people like yourself back together multiple times in my career. Happened to you? It's we call it a polytrauma because you had multiple bones broken, multiple injuries, right?
Hmm.
So, I remember one time we had a guy came in and he had broken every long bone, and so his humeruses, femurs, tibias and fibulas and all that, and then also his wrists and all that. So it was me and 7 surgeons putting this guy back together. So it was but I never get to see the end result. And so I'm sure that you still have a fair amount of discomfort and pain, but obviously, ever who worked on you did good work because you said you were earlier we were talking. You said you were mucking out horse stalls or feeding horses or something this morning. So
That's right.
obviously, you're able to be a functioning adult. So if you don't mind going into the recovery process a little bit, how that what that was like and how long did it take?
I'd say, I mean, a full year plus,
Mhm.
but yeah, when I first woke up, my arms were both casted. I couldn't use them, and I had an external fixator on my pelvis because they
Oh,
just,
wow.
as they're trying to put things into place, I would have to recover. First, they'd have to do this surgery and then give me
Mhm.
time to recover. Again, that I also had that where I was bleeding internally and they had to go in from a vein through my leg and go in and find that bleeding. That was the
Mhm.
first thing that they had to do. And um, it took a long time, just
Yeah.
getting up. So eventually they took out that external fixator. I went in and they did another surgery, and my pelvis is pretty much metal. It's held,
Mhm.
mostly metal, and then big bolts in the back. It was broken in 4 places.
Oh, wow.
And for me, I just was in heaven. I mean,
Mm.
honestly, like that carried with me, like that memory, that feeling, that emotion. And I just was there to trust, and I trusted the the physical therapists and the
Mhm.
doctors, and we kept just doing surgeries, and I listened and I paid attention and I did no matter how much it hurt, because it hurt a lot,
Mhm.
and I did
Yeah.
everything that they told me to do.
Yeah, and that's the real road to recovery. I mean, listen, I've said it on the show a few times that doctors are not God, but especially when it comes to specialists like surgeons and that kind of thing, and your OTs and your PTs and all those people, they know what they're doing, and if you listen to them, you'll get everything you need to get through life. Because,
Mhm.
like my stepfather, for example, when he was born, he had his Achilles tendons were too short. So his heel was up. It was like wearing pumps. You know what I mean?
Okay,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So he had to have Achilles lengthening procedures done when he was a child. And because he didn't like pain, which I, don't imagine too many people do, he didn't do his physical therapy properly. Or
Yeah,
let me put it this way: he didn't do it at all. So,
yeah, yeah,
and so he had to walk with it on the balls of his feet for all of his life. That's why he wore cowboy boots, because he couldn't put his heels down. So if he had, and I get it, I've been through physical therapy. It's not fun. It's painful, but it's painful for a reason. It's to get you mobile and to make sure you don't have any long lasting effects. And it looks like with you and your openness to learn and to get better, along with their knowledge and them being able to help you get there, is what
yeah,
got you to be where you are today. So
yeah.
that's an amazing story.
Yeah,
So yeah.
this hand, the doctor was in like 17 pieces. My wrist, there's 2 metal bars, one here and one
Mm-hmm.
here, and
Mm-hmm.
he said, "You left bones on the road. Like, this
Oof.
bump that you have here is
Yeah.
gone." And
Mm-hmm.
he put it back to, I'm, like, blessed for this man, what he did
Yeah.
for me.
Mhm,
So,
and the fact that you can still open and close your hand and you have function in it is, yeah,
well, that took a lot of tears.
I bet
But
it did.
I think one of the first things when I woke up, I said, beside telling everyone about heaven and what I saw, and I told the doctors what colors they were, because I saw everyone in auras, and it was
Mhm,
really cool. But other than that, I'm like, I can test. I can still test. I can
mhm,
still help kids. So what I wanted was to be able to type, and I can. I don't have
yeah,
supination, but I
mhm,
have I can,
pronation.
whatever this one is.
It's pronation, yeah, yeah,
Pronation, yeah.
yeah, I mean, and to go through that and to have the outlook that you had, and now do you think that the experience with the ethereal love that you felt, do you think that is that what motivated you to be able to go through it a little bit better? Do you think that had an
Yes.
impact? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm, mhm,
My son, when I didn't wanna come back, my son came to me one more time, and he showed me this time his physical form, and he was sitting in a chair, and this is all within the 8 days that I was intubated, and he said, "You need to go back. There's
mhm,
things that you can do on Earth that you can't do here."
yeah,
And he was letting me know that there's work still to be done. And then he showed me all the things you can do, like eat a hamburger, feel the wind, walk in
mhm,
the sand, feel the water, hug someone you love,
mhm,
and then he leaned forward and he said, "And anyway, you'll be here in a minute. So that life is
yeah,
short." And that stayed with me. I need to go back because I have things to do. And if I have things to do, I need to get better. So
mhm.
I got better.
It's an amazing story. I think that there's definitely something to the afterlife, because and I've said it before on here, as a Christian, we have to believe in an afterlife, because if we
Hmm.
don't, what's the point, right? So,
That's true.
and it doesn't really explain to what form we'll be in. There used to be a show on TLC
Mhm.
back when it was the Learning Channel. It was called "I Survived" or "I Shouldn't Be Alive." I think it was the two shows, and
Yeah.
there was a guy. His brother was on anti psych meds. The guy they were interviewing, he was asleep. His brother walked in, asked him for a cigarette. He said, "Come back later. I'm catching up on sleep." And the brother had stopped taking his medication, and because he didn't need it anymore, because he was feeling better because of his
Yeah.
medication.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
he grabbed a chef's knife and stuck it in the guy's neck, and not like but like in that empty space between your clavicle and your trapezius muscle. He felt himself bleeding out and dying. And he said his experience was he didn't see anything. He said there was no Jesus, there was no Buddha, there was nothing. I'm not saying that you have to be a believer to see these things, but
You do. You do. They're not gonna give you more than what you can handle.
right. And he said that, with him before his experience with death, he was very much an introvert and he was very reserved. And after the fact when he got better and he's like, I am much more extroverted. I go out, I do things. So it tells you that our life is a precious commodity. There's a quote that I like to say to remind myself every day is that um, life is borrowed.
Mhm.
So it really helps to do something with the time that we got here. It's why I do this is so I can talk to people like you. And then,
Yeah.
I have people that have amazing stories that have been on my show. It's a gift to be able to talk to people like this. So I never take it for granted.
No, no,
But
and
um,
it's there's lessons from what I experienced. Well, first, let me
mhm,
say
yeah,
that he didn't remember it, but probably more happened than he remembers
right,
because his brain, like maybe he wasn't able to process it, what you
right.
experienced.
Hmm.
So I was familiar with that there was afterlife and I believed in it. So it
Hmm.
wasn't strange for me and I was able to remember that
Yeah.
the lesson is to be connected. Okay. So the beautiful love up there was because we were all connected and to hurt one would be to hurt another. You're not
Hmm.
going to hurt somebody. So what you're doing by connecting people and sharing people's story is exactly the message that they sent me back with. So I
Yeah.
love that. And
Thank
that's
you.
what kind of brought me to doing this and asking to do a podcast because I enjoyed hearing you say that you just like to meet people and connect
Hmm.
with people and let them share their stories. And I love it. And I love watching you too. So
No, well,
thank
thank you
you.
very much. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I do. I notice. I do. I don't really engage in comments, but I see your comments and they're always lovely. So I appreciate you. We could talk about that for a second, actually, about the disconnect between humans. It has gotten to an all-time low. I mean, you got people in the same household that don't talk to each other. I think it's
Hmm.
by design. I truly do. Given how the
Yeah.
family unit has deteriorated over the last, I don't know, 50 years, it has been it's been exponentially worse. I still think there's time to come back from it, but the problem is with our brains, we're all addicted to social media, and I hate to say it, but we live in a very self-centered culture, and
We do.
yeah, and it's like it's about me, and that's it, and that's not how it works. I worry about mine, but I also worry about my neighbor a little bit too. I just want to make sure they have enough. It's
Right.
not. I don't care if they have more than me. If they
Right.
do, good for them, because that nine
Right.
chances out of 10 they've earned it, right?
Yep.
But for me, I just want everybody to have enough and to be happy.
Care enough about no, people don't. Families have broken down. I know like the social media, of course, and
Mhm,
technology is part of the problem. You're
mhm,
texting instead of talking. Guilty.
mhm,
I do it too. But definitely what I learned in this experience, if there's a message they sent me back with, it's
mhm,
to connect with people. For me, doing this podcast is just so out of my norm.
mhm,
It's just talking and connecting and communicating, but I'm trying to live what I learned. And I believe that the more you do what you do, and I can share my story and share what I learned, that
mhm.
maybe we'll keep building and get more people and more connection.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And a connection, it should cross cultures, race, all of it. There's not Latin culture, there's not white culture, there's not black culture, there's just culture. Coming from someone who has a culinary background, to me, one of the biggest things that bring people together is food, right?
That's
Because
true.
everybody loves food because you need it to
Mhm,
live.
mhm, mhm.
So, like, there's things that I can learn from one of my Spanish friends about a meal, because I don't know how to make really good empanadas from scratch. You know,
Right.
our cultures can cross and we can learn from each other, but I don't think the powers that be want that to happen because
No,
if we are united, we are unstoppable. And,
absolutely. Yeah,
and there you
agree.
go. And they would rather nuke us than do that. You know what I mean?
Apparently, nuke out
Yeah.
an entire race of people. Wow.
Hmm. Yeah.
But, so yeah, without getting into that, like,
Hmm.
so that's another thing that I learned as soon as I was in heaven or whatever this space was or whatever happened to me, your body is just your shell and each soul is equal,
Hmm.
equal. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, absolutely. And take away, this outer shell, we are each equal, and
Hmm.
and it should be valued as such. You know,
Yeah.
certain people shouldn't be shoved off because of the way they look, like shame on people.
Hmm.
But I
No.
love that connection through food. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and another thing that I think that people should try to do if they can, if they have the means to do so, is travel. And it's not necessarily, they have to be a globetrotter, but
Hmm.
like I went to Mexico in 2008.
Yeah.
Beautiful country. I was in
Yeah.
Tulum, and I stayed at an all inclusive resort. When we left, the resort, that's where you see the real culture. It was very impoverished, but the people still looked happy. In
Lots of
America, we have shiny object syndrome, right? Because we have Amazon and everything's at our fingertips.
mhm,
But when you go to a country like that, as long as they have a food, a little bit of money, and a roof over their head, they're happy. And it's, I think
yeah,
that we in this country should probably think about trying to revert back to that. I'm not saying we have to go back to stone tablets and shit, but you know what I mean? We have to,
yeah,
I think we have to figure out how to reconnect. And it's going to take a long time if it ever happens. I mean, I'm not
right.
super optimistic that it's going to, but I mean, maybe, who knows? God willing, it'll happen.
So since this all happened, I've started going to a school called Fellowships of the Spirit, and
Okay.
I've
Yeah.
learned more about like spiritualism. And
Hmm.
so part of our goal at like connecting with these people who it was a safe place to share my story. They completely embraced it, understood it, and believed it,
Hmm.
and knew that it was a memory. And so we worked together just to like pray, send out good energy. Meditation is a good way to
Hmm.
do that. And through that, we believe that, I don't know if this sounds kooky, but I believe it's true because it's what the angels showed me is that
Hmm.
we send out that good energy. And that also is helping to bring in people, into the kindness and goodness and understanding that things are not what's important, people are. And we also
Hmm.
do that through being kind to others, the simple
Hmm.
things in life.
Right, absolutely. I had somebody on a while back, and her goal is to promote kindness at every turn. And I agree. Like I told her, I said the world needs more of it, especially right now with all the muck that's going on in this day and age. And you try to talk to a stranger, it's like, why are you talking to me? And so that tells you that's how far we've fallen with that disconnect. I get it. People are going about their lives. Some people that just don't want to be bothered and they're in their own little bubble. Hopefully that'll change. But so, do you, if somebody needs to have their child assessed, how would they get a hold of you?
I have a company called Assessments Made Easy. So you can
Okay.
just go to my website, also Facebook page and my Facebook page, Melanie Hewitt DeAeth.
I want to say thanks for coming on. It was a great conversation. I think you're a very special person, and just for being able to persevere through all that and come back and spread this message that you're spreading, I really appreciate it. I wish you all the luck and everything.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I
Uh,
enjoyed it. It was a great
yeah,
conversation. Like you said, I loved it.
thanks for listening, everybody.